for the district. Thank you. Go away. Does everyone else get that popped up in the middle of their screen when that? Okay.
No.
I'm like, all righty. And in my ear. So, and last week I know I threw a lot of stuff at you last week, and a lot of it is, as you step up into a role of public image for Rotary, there's a lot to consider in what we need to move forward with it. And the real challenge with public image is building the brand, and more than building the brand, because I mean, Rotary is pretty solid. They have a whole visual guide. They have all of the information that we need. It's managing the brand within the districts and the clubs. And that brand management becomes the real challenge for all of us, because many Rotarians are so used to the idea that every year we get a new theme. And how many of you remember there's a new theme? And people can go back and say, oh yeah, and so-and-so's year when we were, then here was the theme and everything that was happening. And for a lot of Rotarians, they use that as the Rotary brand. That's what they would push out. That's what they would talk about. And it would all be around the new theme. And then another year would come along and that would get pushed aside and we'd bring out the new brand, but it was actually the new theme. And last night we had an opportunity to kind of talk with a couple of people, and we really were looking at, for public image within the district, what we were really interested in. Is it an internal or an external? And I've been really thinking a lot about, how we want to focus it, because I'd always intended the idea of public image, and I think Bala agrees that it is that external push that we want. Mm-hmm. Internally, we do a pretty good job of connecting with our Rotarians. We have newsletters, we have the meetings, we have all of those connections that we have. But it's our external image that we often get confused into the general public. And often we bring that Rotary theme up as opposed to the Rotary brand. And it's that effort to get everyone on the same page. So I put together some slides, and for me, slides just kind of help organize the way people are thinking and looking at things. Do you all see Promote Rotary, the lead slide right now? Mm-hmm. All right, good. I'm used to kind of having a visual go along with what we're talking about, and we're going to have some time to talk about some of these ideas as we go on. This is one that we kicked off with last week as well. It's that consistency in our communications and how we intertwine that in our public relations, our events, our social media, advertising, all of that things that we have going on. But if we can build a consistency in our communications, I think we can strengthen Rotary. We can build that brand awareness, and we could help in so many different ways. I talked with the president-elects about the synergy between public image, our community service projects, and our foundation. If we have a really great public image, it's easier to bring in partners. And as we bring in partners and do a little bit more in fundraising, we can do bigger and better service projects. And if we do bigger and better service projects, we're engaging our public image, we're letting the community know the great work that we're doing. And along the lines, maybe recruiting even more members. But it is in that consistency in the message and the way that we present it to people that I think we can make a true difference in our district and in our clubs. So some of the things that we're thinking about for the district public image team to look at and to really consider helping us with is obviously support for the district and the clubs. How do we support making sure that we're all on the same page, we're all communicating the same way, we're all bringing the same information together? I think the team needs to be committed and willing to learn all of the brand elements of Rotary. We're going to become those brand experts, and we're going to really help move that forward as brand ambassadors throughout the district and in working with our clubs. That big differentiate the internal and external audiences, I think, is important, because once we can really clearly focus on an external push in our public image, I think that we can really do a lot in our messaging and communicating and connecting with everyone. Hopefully the team can help develop and implement that brand strategy that we really need for the district. So order of priority. How do we want to approach this? It's obviously not going to happen in a month or 2 months. It's going to roll out in a process, but how do we want to see that happen? And what are the benchmarks that are going to tell us how we're being successful in that new brand management strategy itself? Part of that would be assisting and reviewing what's going on with the district and the club public image. You know, see if we're on, see if we're off, and how then we can identify training needs and assist in training so that we're bringing more and more people in line with that consistency and message. And then also the team to recruit other people to assist us with storytelling, with social media, with the website, and public relations. This isn't something I think the team can do all on its own, but I think we can then, as we become comfortable, as the team becomes comfortable in being those brand managers and those brand ambassadors, that we can bring other people in to help execute the work that we need to have done. And I said a couple of times that idea, of brand ambassadors. And I know we hear that a lot, you know, in the kind of social media and the celebrities and those kinds of things. But, you know, part of that definition of brand ambassador is really that person who stands up and promotes and really talks in that really solid way about the brand that they're representing. And I think we can all be brand ambassadors for Rotary in that same way. And last week we talked a little bit about bringing those brand ambassadors into kind of that regional programming and bringing that out. So working with sector assistant governors, working with club presidents, and working with club public image teams to kind of see where they are. Those brand ambassadors in that regional areas to begin to assess clubs' current promotions. You know, what's the identity they're projecting? What's the voice? How are they presenting Rotary? How are they building it into the People of Action campaign, which we'll talk about in a little bit? What are they using Rotary logos, fonts, and colors? Are they using them in a universal way that is consistent so that as people see it, they recognize it as being Rotary? And obviously regional brand ambassadors to connect clubs to the training and our content experts that can help us all move forward in the work that we need to do. So just some ideas. I mean, in brand management, it really is about the ongoing work to really maintain and project that consistent brand identity, ensuring that the content, the communication, the events, the sub-brands, Rotaract, Interact, all the stylistic elements are all aligned with Rotary branding. And when I say that, sometimes we get caught up in the idea that it's just about the logo and it's just about the color scheme. But it really is more than that, because if we really do become really good brand managers and really good brand ambassadors, it's that overall impression that we begin to leave with people. So it's how people think about Rotary, how they talk about Rotary, and what people associate with the idea of Rotary. And so we're looking to have those kinds of things happen in a way that, you know, becomes kind of that synergy, and it continues to move forward and brings people together. So I was going to do not necessarily in a breakout, but I'm going to put these into the chat. I'm on the wrong page. I'm sorry. Eek, back up. Sorry about that. There we go. But wanted us just to kind of, as a group, talk about what impressions of Rotary do you think people in your community have? Is Rotary and the good work we do recognized by people in your community? And do you think people in your community truly understands what it means to be a Rotarian? So I'm going to stop this at this point. I'm going to add those questions to the chat. But I would like us to kind of talk about those, and we can talk about them one at a time or collectively. But how about if we throw out the first one to everyone in the meeting? Let's go. But what are some of your ideas? What do you think? What impressions of Rotary do you think people in your community have about who we are and what we do? Kat?
A lot of times when I first meet people and I, talk about Rotary, they're like, oh, is it like Kiwanis or Optimist? That's like something that they'll always ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know too much about Kiwanis or Optimist, but I'm like, well, let me tell you about Rotary. So they tend to understand a little bit about the old school, like kind of gate kept gentlemen's club.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like what they're envisioning still, it seems
Okay.
like.
Right. So they get the idea of a social service organization, but they have old ideas about what that is. Okay. How about others? What do you think? What impressions of Rotary do you think people in your community have?
I think
Mike?
overall, in Livingston County, we may be a little unique, but Rotary has a very strong presence here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the clubs, there's like 6 clubs now. A lot of the clubs are doing projects. Now we've had this pause, if you will.
Right.
And so part of the deal is ramping everybody up. Our club does ramps, our satellite clubs does hygiene bags. Sunrise does 2 major gifts to different ones, so forth and so on. And Fowlerville is very involved with the community there. It's kind of more of we are, and it's not like, it doesn't seem to be a real divide between Rotarians and non-Rotarians, which I
Okay.
think is good. Now, the clubs, at least Brighton, is not very willing to promote themselves. So we have that.
And that's always the challenge. I think we have some very modest and humble people who are Rotarians. It may be part of the reason that we're called, just to be of service to others or service above self. So we don't look to shine the light on ourselves. So we're really not getting that broader exposure for all the really good works that we're doing, right? So sometimes clubs are reluctant to kind of shine the spotlight on themselves and say, hey, look at all the great things we're doing here. Right? Sharon, I saw you had your hand up earlier.
Thank you. I'd like to refer back to Kat's description because I often run into that kind of perception in the community, but I want to share something that happened recently.
Mm-hmm.
Our club is a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm in Auburn Hills Chamber. So I attended the meeting and I am involved in chamber activities, but also with the chamber's emerging interest in DEI and developing a committee with regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it was that committee meeting that I attended, and I was in this breakout room talking about all things Rotary, of course. And today I received an email from one of the people I was in the breakout room with, and she said, do you have time to have a coffee? I'd like to follow up with you on what you were saying about Rotary and DEI. I had no idea that Rotary was promoting DEI. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Just let me know when.
Perfect.
So we'll be meeting next week. And I think those are the types of ways in which, when we talk about Rotary, we talk about what is, interesting to people in our community, and whether it's a service project or initiatives like DEI. And I think that's a good thing when we can give people a different, maybe a more contemporary, refreshed impression.
And Sharon, you also bring up another point, because we talk about partnerships and a lot of other things. And often we're very concerned about people joining Rotary. But I think a wonderful tactic is for a club to join the chamber. And just as you're saying, is that chamber membership really opens up a lot of other opportunities to talk about Rotary. And to be involved and make those kinds of connections.
I highly recommend it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a very
know-
good relationship.
So, sometimes in our search to get people to join us, we don't really think of, we could join others as well.
Mhm.
Jane?
We recently, the Brighton Rotary Club did join the chamber, and I'm looking at it as an opportunity to represent Rotary to people, other business people or people who are interested in the community and making a difference. And I think that, we can then get the message out. I also think that when you are doing a project and you think, oh, we could use some more hands, somebody you might say, gee,
Right.
would you like to help us with this project? It would be like the difference is your approach. You could say, would you like to come and help us fill sandbags this afternoon? Or would you like to help us save a town?
Great.
And it's just all how you phrase it, because we've had more members that have come on
Yeah.
on projects because they see the culture, they see how we work together, and they go, there's got to be more to this than just this little piece. And so then they start asking. You don't tell them, they ask, and then that's your opening to say, well, let's talk about that for a minute. So I think that's a good approach. Like my tagline was, get your ask in gear.
Mhm. But Jane, you make a great point, because we can tell them, here's the specifics about a project, or we can tell them the impact.
Yeah.
You can help us save a town. And when we start talking about impact and what the results of our actions are, we have a much better message. And consistency, if 47 clubs across our district began talking about, you can help us save a town, or you can make a difference in a child's life, or you can impact statement to them, we have a much better image of Rotary, right? Because it's not just the people who get together and, have lunch and do whatever. These are people who are making a solid impact in the lives of the people around us. So, we talk about voice, we talk about messaging, and it's just that shift that can happen. And again, it won't happen overnight, but once it starts, it really does grow organically. People begin to really understand that impact statement versus a description of a project.
Yeah.
Lisa wrote, impressions of Rotary, agree with Kat. Others have no idea what we do and the extent of the community service. Yeah. And you're right, Lisa. I think there's so much that we do that we never even get out into the public to share with them. And Kat said they're part of the Novi Chamber. Kat, you've joined the Novi Chamber? Okay, good.
Yeah, we've been chamber members for a long time, and one of our Rotarians is on their board, so that kind of helps too.
Okay. Definitely makes a difference, right? How about others? Just kind of going over, is Rotary and the good work we do recognized by people in your community? Do you think they understand what it is to be a Rotarian? John?
Okay, well, we have the largest club in Michigan, largest Rotary Club, and then the Kiwanis Club in town was also the largest Kiwanis Club in Michigan. So I think we don't seem to have any big service organizations, but I think the Kiwanis and Rotary are pretty well known.
Okay.
But we could be better known with the
Mhm.
district grant that I put in for, but I haven't quite got that going yet.
Okay.
Where I'm trying to use social media to help enhance and expand the awareness of Rotary in Ann Arbor.
Okay. Good. Kat?
One of the challenges that I've noticed in our club specifically is I think that some of our Rotarians even do not understand fully the organization that they joined. One of the things that we're trying to re-emphasize, for example, is our code of conduct, Rotary International's code of conduct and code of ethics. Also, we always talk about the 7 avenues of service. There's a lot of people in our club that don't realize that environment's still been added. And they, unfortunately, I think there's some members that joined our club because they thought they were going to hang out with their friends.
Mhm.
But when it comes to topics that really embody what being a Rotarian is, like talking about equity and inclusion, and Rotary International is, really pushing for that. We have some people in our club that don't understand that Rotary International is in support of that. And they're
Right.
pushing back, which is unfortunate. So I don't think that they know what organization they've joined. And
Yeah.
so therefore, outside of our club, that's giving a poor impression to the public because of some of our members' behavior.
Okay.
So that's something that we have to reconcile, which is very tough.
Yeah.
Yep. Kat, you bring up a great point on that as well. And, we really kind of struggle with who we are and what we do. And so many of the things that everyone's been saying tonight are reflective of Rotary's own internal surveys that they've been doing. They really felt that need to kind of come on board and figure out, why are we having such a difficult time? So starting in 2018, they did a broad-based survey. And the first thing that they asked people was, why would you join a service, or why would you join a service organization? And when they looked at the results and then what came back from that information is they said a purpose, what they can do in the community. They would look to a service organization that has that kind of common purpose. The causes that that organization supports are important. An established reputation. So they're not just kind of a new startup, but they have a reputation and they've been involved in this kind of work for a while. And the different programs that they support in the
Hey,
different
Karen, are
kinds
you
of
sharing a
programs.
slide?
I hope so.
We are seeing your other screen.
Desktop.
We're seeing your desktop.
I hate when that happens. Hold on.
I know
supposed
you wanted to, your intent was to share. I just wanted to make sure.
It's supposed to share number 3. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Thank you. Having too many screens sometimes gets confusing. But the thing that they looked at was that purpose, opportunity for community service, causes that are important to them, established reputation, a strong heritage, and programs that make a difference locally. And those became kind of key things that people were looking for when they wanted to become involved in a social service organization. Good news from that survey and the other surveys that Rotary has done is that Rotary ranks in the top 3rd. UNICEF, Lions Club, Rotary, and then kind of break down into other organizations. So people recognize that we're an established organization that they can be a part of. So that was great news. But then it breaks down and it begins to look at, most only had a vague idea of exactly how we do good in the world. So they heard of us, they know we do good things, but they don't know how. And only 35% saw Rotary as an organization for people like them. So Rotary is for other people, not necessarily for me. And so, sorry. So when we look at not organizations like me, we can say we have a strong purpose, we have really great causes, we have that established reputation, and really great programs that make a difference locally. Our problem is we're just not communicating that in the way that needs to happen to get the word out to people that we're trying to reach. Only 25% of the people that Rotary surveyed knew someone in Rotary. All of us knew that we were there, but we also realized that our issue is, without having a really good public image and that really good projecting of who we are, what we do, people just don't know what we're all about. So Rotary came with an action plan. We're people of action. We're going to look at things that we can do. And you've probably all heard these 4. They're part of my mantra all the time. But Rotary is all about increasing our impact, expanding our reach, enhancing participant engagement, and increasing our ability to adapt. And if you look at 3 out of those 4, they're all externally focused.
Mhm.
And the other one, enhanced participant engagement, is internally focused on our current Rotarians, but the better engagement experience they have, the more likely they are to talk about Rotary in a positive way and get that message out to their friends, family, and others in the business community who might want them to become a part of us. And when you look at increase our impact, increasing our impact is about the projects we do and how we reach into the community. And we need to make sure that our public image is set up, that we're letting people know that those things are happening. That's how we expand our reach. That's how we reach more people. And increase our ability to adapt, how flexible we can be and how we can move forward to do different kinds of things. So their action plan really aligns strongly with a very strong public image team. And about that same time, Rotary launched a new vision statement. And I'm sure this is familiar to many of you. And it carries the Together We statement, which is an integral part of that image that Rotary is working through right now. But together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. So when Kat talks about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how some of their members don't understand that, how do we, create change in ourselves? We learn about things and we become skilled and we look at it. And so all of those things become integral to it. I kind of like how 4 words pop together, people create change, but it's important that we begin to look at those very different things. So to accomplish a lot of this, we start to look at our brand, creating those powerful messages. We know for over 100 years, Rotary has united leaders committed to really making change in our communities. We make significant difference in communities locally and around the world, but many people still don't fully understand who we are and what we do. So it's important to tell our story in ways that people everywhere understand what Rotary does. And again, it's telling that story on impact, and to make sure that they understand that connection. Again, back to consistent, compelling brand communications. When we can come together with great experiences, we can strengthen our brand and help engage and attract members, participants, donors, partners. They all become because they begin to recognize Rotary for the true impact that it makes within our communities. So talked a little bit about people of action, and just kind of on a show of hands, I want to stop sharing and hopefully I can come back to the screen if I can find it again. But how many of you are familiar with the People of Action campaign from Rotary? Just to show of hands. Okay, so we're kind of there. People of Action was really looking at ways that we can describe who we are and what we do. We're people of action. And the distinction is that we're not just a group who raises funds and gives money. We're a group of people who bring people together, find out what's needed, and then develop that plan, implement the plan, take action to make a difference. And we can do that through collaborations, through partnerships, through our own clubs, through global extensions and partnerships with other clubs. But it's the way that we begin to look at and talk about Rotary that can make a difference. Please be on screen 3. And a lot of times we talk not only in the way that we describe a project. Hey, do you want to come help us build some, fill some sandbags, or you can help prevent a flood, right? Here's the impact that we're talking about. But we also look at just even from a public image standpoint of the photographs that we send. How many of you on Facebook district site have seen pictures of everyone sitting around a table either before or after lunch? How many of you have seen the 6 people standing up with a check, passing the check to somebody? right? Nice pictures, but they're really not telling that impact story as we would like it to be. Choosing images in Rotary does have a huge image library for us, but also shooting our own images within our district could make a difference. Real life, everyday moments, people working together and connecting, 2 or 3 people filling those sandbags and telling the story makes a bigger impact than a whole bunch of Rotarians writing the check to buy the sandbags, right? We need to look at the way that we present it. Images that have different camera angles and all of that are part of overall the public image that we're hoping to move forward. So the campaign for People for Action brings the Rotary brand to life. It really and truly highlights what happened when a community leaders within Rotary join together, share their vision, exchange ideas and solutions, and take the action to make it reality. And when we begin to look at Rotary from that standpoint and bring that focus on it, we begin to really move our image forward. And if 47 clubs across the district began talking and thinking in exactly those same ways, the impact that we can have, that when we say in 5 years, hey, what about Rotary? People will say they did this and they had this impact and here's what happened and we're so much better and it's thank a Rotarian for, because we're going to demonstrate the impact that we're making within our communities. I thought I had, there we are. Let me jump back to that one really quick. We talked about a lot of these ideas of what we can do to promote Rotary, but I think I want to skip ahead to this one to really talk in terms back into our group as we look to build the public image team of what kind of training and support do you think you as an individual and the district public image team will need to be successful? And then the second question is, how can you share your skills to help the district establish that strategic marketing plan to advance Rotary, our district, and our clubs? And I'm going to drop that one into the chat as well, but I thought those were a couple of topics we could talk about. Yay. There we go. Okay. So what do you think? What kind of training or support do you think you as an individual or the district public image team need to be successful? Hi, Vineet.
Hey, sorry about that. Sorry, I was driving.
I just saw you. I was like, oh, Vineet's here.
So, if I may suggest, I think, with the slides that you have mentioned, Karen, and I think you have done such a good job with collating all this information and getting it to us so that we can imbibe this stuff that you've done over a span of at least a year, if not more. My thought about Rotary has always been that it's the best kept secret, right? In most cases. And why is that so? I mean, people like Roma and Bala are running all over the place, right? And I see Jane and Mike, doing all that stuff all around, but nobody's heard of it. So, if I can cut it down a little bit in my simple mind, I see one thing that we can do. If we can do one thing as a district, maybe 4 projects as a district where we involve all the clubs together to do certain things, I will venture to say we'll probably will have more participation than individual clubs doing individual stuff. And I can give you an example. We did that shred polio, right? And Mike and Jane were there early in the morning helping out. We probably had 50% more people come to volunteer for that event than all of our events together that whole year, except for the mask project, right? Mask project, was the whole district-wide project. And it was just because that you had done such a good job with promoting it in Facebook, right? Just saying it's a polio event, it's a shred polio event. We raised probably about maybe $5,000 that day.
Mhm.
We were expecting to raise like a 1,200 or so. So, and I think the downtown club, I mean, John would be vouching for this thing. You've done such a great job with the projects, but nobody's heard of it because you as a club have done such a good job with getting your people involved. But and you've always extended your hand to say, hey, you know what, tell us if you can help with this projects. But it's never come across as a Rotary project. It has come across as a Ann Arbor downtown club project. And for some reason, we all think about that as silos, right? The silo, people over there are responsible for it. Why should I get involved? Not that why should I get involved, but they're doing it. They don't need me, for that. I think if we can make it, like a global event or even like a district-wide event, I think it'll have the same amount of investment from our side as part of time and effort. But I think we'll probably get, I venture to say, maybe about double the people involved in knowing about it.
Okay. I want to kind of put into the parking lot the idea that part of the work of the public image team, when we're really looking at being those ambassadors out to the clubs, is when we plan a project, we really need to plan. We always plan, who's going to be there, what we're going to do, how much, what the budget is and everything else. We never do the PR plan with it, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we publicize it before, but we never do the follow-up. We never tell about the impact. And including a PR plan in every project we do, I think could help a lot in a number of different ways. Kat.
So, I love everything that you're saying, Vineet. But here's the thing. When I'm thinking of our public image committee, and this is just Kat's brain, I don't see us as the ones creating these projects. That should be a separate committee. We should be the ones strategizing how to do the PR for that project. We should not be spearheading and championing those projects ourselves, because that is way too much work. We already have a lot of things that we have to do. And honestly, like 3 things specifically in terms of tactics that need to get done by this team is we need people that concentrate on our brand awareness and PR. We need people to concentrate on our social media, and we need people to concentrate on the website, because people need to know how to use Club Runner to update the website, right? And then we'll be able to train other clubs to help out with that. But we actually have to have these tactics done. And so, like, if you're like amazing at coming up with these district projects, like, do it, and then we'll be the people power to help promote it. But I do not think we have the capacity to come up with these projects in this committee.
And
That's
sorry, and I 100% agree with you.
Okay.
Having these conversations, I think over time, what I've realized is that we have a portfolio of a lot of companies in our venture fund. One of the things that amazes me all the time is the amount of money that marketing takes. Cost of customer acquisition is just horrendous, right? For everybody. Now, the social work organization, even worse, because you're not selling anything. You are appealing to people's emotions to come help out.
You're creating value.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're not creating value. You have to show that you are you're showing value to people, that this is what you will get by giving something for free. You're not expecting anything back except for happiness, maybe.
Right.
So I think as a part of public image committee, it's easier for us to market 4 things, 4 projects, rather than having to say every club, every club, you got to do a marketing, post every month. Just manage that. And just to get that information out there, we'll spend all of our time, I think, kind of begging them to do that. So that's the reason why I brought up the project, saying as a district public image committee, we can say we will focus on 4 major events, as a district. Well, let's decide on what those events are. Let's see if anybody else wants to kind of take the lead on those events. But I'm not saying that, we as a company would do that. I'm just saying that's the focus to have it on.
Go to Bala and then up to John.
As I'm hearing these passionate motivating and exciting discussions, I kind of rewind back to some of the historical perspectives of great leaders that have taught us the consistency of a message, as Karen was talking about. I'm sure all of you have heard of Gandhi. I'm sure you heard of Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, on and on. When somebody asked Gandhi, he asked, what defined life? He said, my life is my message. And if you remember, 2 days back was the day he was assassinated back in 1948. But more important was any event that Gandhi undertook or anything he undertook, his primary focus after the first few years was to tell the British directly to their face, you need to leave India. He said, I am a good friend of you as a people person, but we want you to leave so the Indians can govern India. Now, what he also said is back in, I think, 1942, prior to one of those quit India movements when he made salt, the whole purpose was not to make salt, but through that action, he basically created so much ruffle in London and all over the Imperial Empire that he hit at the belly of the UK government and their control on policies to the action of making salt. To make the long story short, he said, and I quote, I want to live full span of my life, and according to me, the full span of life is 125 years. By that time, India will not only be free, but the whole world will be free. So again, you see the consistency in his messaging, and we can learn from that. And as far as we are concerned, as long as we can continue to provide that consistent message, whether we are a small club, medium club, large club, whether we are in an elevator, whether we are servicing projects. So my request to this team is, how do we bring out that consistency in the messaging? So that's something in addition to everything that Karen mentioned.
Okay, good. John, you had
Yeah,
something?
I guess I believe in all this. What I'd like to see us do maybe is take a step back a little bit, help the clubs present kind of a uniform public face. I've been
Mhm.
working with Roma on the membership committee, and I'm a regional membership lead watching over 12 clubs, 3 different sectors. And so I've been to each of them websites and their Facebook pages, and it's all over the map in terms of if I was somebody that was interested in what this club was doing and where they met and how they met. And, some of those I just can't even figure out where they're meeting and how they're meeting. And so
I
I
know.
wouldn't want to, I'd want to see us do something. And I was thinking of a program like a secret shopper sort of thing. And we'd started out by letting all the clubs know that here we've got some help for you to present a good public face with at least these 2 areas of social media. And then after everyone had a chance to take advantage of the skills we could provide them, then we'd start having people pretend that they were wanted to go to a meeting or find out what the club's big goal was. And then,
See what their feedback was from all of that, right?
right.
See how the club handled it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And John, I know last week we talked too about looking at and kind of came up with the idea of regional brand ambassadors, but to work with the regional marketing team and have them pair together to bring the marketing perspective, because obviously membership and the brand ambassadors, regional brand ambassadors could do some work really great together, because as we're looking to recruit, we're looking to do all of those different kinds of things. We pull it together and we can make an impact in a lot of different ways. I know there's a huge learning curve. There's a huge learning curve, Kat, as you come into Rotary itself. There's a huge learning curve when we start talking about the Rotary brand and all of the aspects that surround it.
Right.
I hope that the sheet that I sent out wasn't too overwhelming. If you started clicking the links, you got in depth and went the comforting part of it is knowing that there's so much there that we can just use. We don't have to recreate anything. There's so much there that we can use. So, you know, if the team comes together and they decide one of the things they want to do is maybe get public service announcements out and see if, you know, radio and TV stations and cable will pick up our PSAs. We have videos, we have audios, we have them at 10, 15, 30-second PSAs. We can get all of that out. It's just, if that's what the team decides is one of the things they want to start with, there's something that can happen right away. There's so much there that can just get out. But it's, you know, how is the team going to kind of resource themselves and understand what's available, and then begin to develop that plan as to how we want to begin to approach it. Jenny?
So thinking about the question posed, like, what do we feel like we need to be able to provide support to the clubs, and kind of going back to Kat's focus on like the purpose of this club, and Vinny, your example about like how we can start to show examples of what this team can do, this committee can do. A few things that I think that would be helpful when we think about, we have plans, right? Project plans for when we're going to do an event and things like that. And many clubs probably follow things like that. Having a template for a PR or PI for different types of events, whether it's something small, it could be your regular club meeting, it could be something as big as like your annual fundraiser or whatever those things are, but having scalable templates for different types of events or activities that help show clubs like all you have to do is plug in your dates and here you go. That would be helpful. One of the things that we have new that has been tremendously helpful is the list of speakers, the topics, right? List of speakers. If we have access to a list of story writers that can help craft those articles for clubs. I hate writing. I'm not a good writer. I can talk to people all day long. If you put a keyboard in front of me, I'll like freeze, panic, and run away and like go curl up in a corner and start rocking. Like, right, like don't ask me to write anything. It's not my thing. But if we have access to people that are kind of like, yeah, send me some info, but then we also have that, what kind of info do you need? So additionally, a template maybe of here are some basic bullet points that you can send to one of the writers to get the ball rolling with starting to craft a story. I think understanding who those resources are and having access to them. And then kind of along that way, this is another kind of jump to advancing in social media. One of the things that my company has is canned social media canned social media posts, right? Like pick from this list of 100 things and just attach it to a photo at an event and tag your thing, right? Like they don't have to be long. And I think people tend to think like, I don't know what to say about this. I'm here, right? Like, so we just post a picture and then people don't know what we're doing. But if we can help make the things easier, where it's like, if you give me the things to say, I'll put it out there. If I have to think of all the things to say, it's never going to happen, kind of thing. So, and I tend to, in my experiences, come across most people are like that. There are a few people that are really good at writing the things. And if we make those things easy and accessible, those things can help to increase the frequency that people are experiencing Rotary for different purposes.
There's a huge technological gap within our clubs, and we really have to make it simple for them. Like it might be easy for us, Karen, like you and me and Jenny, but I just know that so many clubs don't know how to update their website on Club Runner. They don't know how to use Facebook. We have to make it very simple.
Yep. And one thing, just kind of picking up from what Jenny said, is I'm always a big believer in a communication calendar. And Rotary, conveniently enough, has a topic or a theme for every month, you know, so it might be, you know, whatever it might be. but then you break down those months and then you just write those one sentence kind of something you can attach to something else, and here's your list for the month, and you know. So I mean, a lot is there. It's that organization and getting that tightened up and getting that out to clubs. And, you know, and as Kat is saying, you know, if one of the regional brand ambassadors is out there and, you know, works with membership and realizes someone needs their website updated, you know, how do we get them in contact with someone who could help them do that? And, you know, so sometimes it's not an unwillingness to update their website. It's just like whoever did the website's not here anymore and we don't know what to do.
That's
So what do
exactly
we
right.
what do we do about it? And you know,
I have a
get them the
question.
tools they need. Yeah, Bala.
No, let Mike go first and then I will jump.
Okay.
So we all know about the Pareto principle, right? 20% of the people can do 80% of the work. So I'm looking at this, and of the 47 clubs, how many are really actively doing public image? And I guess my thought is those are the ones we need to target first to get something. It's like taking off in a plane. You got to put the throttle down all the way. And the other thought is one of our mentors and of many other people too, John Maxwell. He always said, if you got somebody that's like you hit the ball and drag Charlie, you're never going to get anywhere. And so my opinion is if we go, let's look at clubs that are actually doing something first and see if we can get the fire going.
Okay.
One of the things I noticed, oh, sorry, Vinny, you go ahead. You were like raising your hand.
No, Bala wasn't first, I guess. Bala
Oh,
go.
Paula. Okay.
So Jenny, first of all, your suggestions are right on point. And Mike, you kind of almost came from and supplemented that. So I think there's a great collaboration going on. Along the same lines, one of the things I've been struggling with is how do we create what I call a skills inventory for the district? You know, we have done this in our companies, in our corporations and things like that. And basically the skills inventory, for example, for this discussion is who are good storytellers and story writers? If we can, you know, identify them, and maybe there are fewer in this call itself, we can identify them. And where I'm going with this is create those centers of excellence. And the centers of excellence, rather than one person, more than one, the power of more than one collaboration, then takes on some of these things and leads by example. Because if I say, let's write story, it's too vague. And like Jenny, I freeze and Roma tries to force me to write something and I still freeze. Bless her heart. I still freeze, both me and my son. So anyway, so that's the kind of thing if we can explore and bring those skills inventory together. And then there's also, of course, at the zonal level as well, we have some resources. But I think we have enough people within our district, within our clubs. I'm very confident, I'm very excited that can help us grow this. We just need to find them. They're already motivated, they're already passionate about it. How do we bring those people together? That's going to be, you know, to me at least, that's a challenge, but challenge always is as well an opportunity as well.
So, you know, you know, my quick thought was that I think one of the things that even our club faces where I'm not technically challenged at all, that we don't even get time to do it, right? So we say, you know, if we have to drop something off, it's probably the website, you know, or the public image or, you know, promote. One thought that we had was when we did this mask project, we had trained some of the girls in India to do some posts for us or to create some material for us. We trained them and then they did that. Do you think it's feasible to revive that project and we pay them some money and charge the clubs, I don't know, $50, $100 or something to say that we will do the post for you. We will do the updates for you. But as a district, we will manage, you know, this project of these girls to educate them. So kind of killing two birds with one stone. And we kind of oversee them. And whatever they can do, then we'll do.
You know, we've talked a couple of times about pulling resources and, you know, looking for someone to help with social media posts and other things. You know, we talked about being able to do some advertising and some, you know, if we pulled enough resources, nonprofit and unused billboards is a pretty cheap rate to be able to put up some billboards. Those different kinds of things that can happen, but it would be pulling resources within the clubs themselves. But to carry that even forward, looking at, you know, Mike and Vineet talking about just those social media posts, does every club need a Facebook page, or could a larger impact on a district page that tells all of these great things all of the clubs are doing have a bigger impact?
So yeah.
Go ahead, Kat.
Well, that's something I wanted to, I agree with you, Karen, 100%. So one of the things that people don't realize is that in order to do, you know, a true PR campaign and things like that, with the tools that we're given now, you really have to figure out how to automate this and make it more efficient. Because the district has a group and not a page, we do not have the scheduling tools that a Facebook page actually has in order to strategically like plan out and schedule way in advance things to hit. Everything has to be manual because it's the group. Really what a group is for internal communication.
Right.
You know, granted, our district group is public, which is great, so people can still see it, but really, it's really meant for our internal communication to communicate with each other within the district. We really need a page. And to maybe some people, this might be semantics, but to us, we really need a page because there are so many tools in the back end of that where we can pre-schedule out so many different things. And, you know, even if clubs have things that they want to communicate out, we can pre-schedule that out and maximize our time, because the majority of us are still extremely busy, you know, full-time career people, and even people who are retired, they tend to be really busy, like sometimes even more than when they were working full-time. So we need to maybe establish these tools in order to be able to do that.
So
I would agree with Kat. We've done a lot of systematizing of our public image on Facebook. LinkedIn doesn't have that scheduling tool, so we can't do it as much as we want on LinkedIn, although we want a bigger presence on there. It requires much more manual, so we can't do things in advance like we can in Facebook. So I would concur with what Kat is saying. It's been great, and yet there is, you know, a lot of time involved in like, what is it that's going to get posted, and how can we make this evergreen, and is there a simple way to access the memes? I mean, I created a bunch of them and I'm reusing them, but if we had a central repository or a folder or something where anybody who's in public image could access them, that would be ideal, because then we can plug and play, be really efficient.
And I'm all about automating it, because even, you know, when I'm working with client, I'll go in and, you know, I can spend half a day in post for a month and just have them shoot out what I need them to. And it's, then I don't have to remember, I don't have to make time doing my everything else, and they just go out. And, you know, I think we have enough content. And then if the clubs are feeding us additional content and we have a true district Facebook page where it really is making a difference, I think we can move the mark on that as we look and move that forward.
So Kat, I just have a real quick question. I thought this year, towards actually the last couple of months, that it did get changed to a page, because now I was able to automate a couple of postings on my Facebook, on the District 6380 Facebook.
Okay.
And it changed. I don't know if that's what, I don't know page versus group, but I mean, I know that functionality all of a sudden got turned on.
Okay.
But, and also further to answer Lisa's thought on sharing a folder or something. At one time, I thought that, at least Troy does, I thought the district did it well on Club Runner. have a folder of all the images and that kind of thing that can be shared. So that, you know, if Lisa's doing a story, she could go into this folder and see the images or the content that she needs, not to duplicate what RI is doing, but specific to the district type of projects or events.
So those
Roma?
all become things that as we move forward, we can do. But
Yeah.
it becomes a question. I think the district does have a page and a group. And it would be transferring everyone off of the group into the page and then
Okay.
just shutting down the group.
Well, I think the group can stay because you really need it for internal communications, but like in, you know, fellowship and, you know, kind of workshopping together. But if someone can get me admin access to the Rotary 6380 group, because I need to see what the back end is and I need to analyze that in order to make.
Is
some
that for the
better
Facebook, Kat?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that
for the
I can
group
get you the
page?
admin role, no problem.
Okay,
Well,
good.
Bala, she's talking about the group though, not the page.
I know, once we give the admin role, then she can go in the back end.
And if
So
you can, I'll reactivate and get you into the group.
There you go.
But let's kind of hold some of the, I mean, we're getting a little bit, and this is great, and I like the energy, and we want to make sure all of these kinds of things happen. But you know, we're getting close to needing to wrap up tonight and looking at some different things. So it sounds like there's some great planning going on and some ideas and different things that are happening, which is good. I'm gonna try and share this because it's the next slide out that I wanted to. When we talk about brand, you know, here it is. It's the new brand, and there's actually a simplified wheel that we can look at too, which takes out the words Rotary International. I think it's what they intended all along, because the very early artwork didn't have Rotary International in the wheel. The wheel is looked at as the mark of excellence that's reserved for different things. But so they really are pushing that kind of wheel without Rotary International in it. But regardless, it's that look, it's the word Rotary that people begin to realize and look at connected to the Rotary wheel, which has been the epic kind of logo that we have. The lockups for the clubs, we look at adding, we've added district here. You could add above and below this. You can also add to the other side of it. But it's the way that we use the Rotary logos that become important. And I have to tell you, when John was saying, you know, you kind of look at those different websites and other things, I have to tell you, people take this and just do all kinds of really crazy things with it. They change the color, they flip it around, they add other stuff to it. So it becomes everything that happens different waters down that initial impact of what happens. And this is our theme for 22-23. This is the theme that Bala's year is going to follow under. And as you can see, the word Rotary is there, but there's no Rotary wheel associated with it. And they are moving more and more away from making those stronger connections. So there is truly a distinction between the logo and the brand for Rotary, Rotary International, and the internal theme for the clubs. So imagine Rotary is what Bala's going to use throughout his year to motivate Rotarians to do more, to do better, to imagine the great things Rotary can be, can do, can accomplish. And this is the theme from Jennifer Jones for her year. But if we think of this as that internal tool that we motivate our Rotarians with, and we think about the logo itself as our external to people, so they begin to recognize Rotary when they see it. Because if they got used to, if they got used to this and all of a sudden saw this and we said it was Rotary, there would be a lot of confusion. So it breaks it down into a number of different ways. Mike?
Yeah.
Had you seen it?
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Okay, but have you seen this before?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
many times.
Okay, I didn't know if I thought everyone had kind of gotten this. Interesting is that the green is the newest add to our color wheel,
Mhm.
and it's supporting environment, as Kat had mentioned. So we're starting to pull some green into it. But I wanted to kind of get the idea of, if the district public image team is there to lead, promote, and inspire our clubs and our Rotarians. Going to leave you kind of thinking on this question and kind of having these ideas. We're planning to get together again on March 19th. And in between, I can send you additional resources and plug you into some of the Learning Center opportunities. But when we look at all of those different areas and we see the things that we need, Kat kind of listed, websites, social media, public relations, and that writing and those different kinds of things. Benit had talked about events. I think we talked about speaking engagements. Beyond that, advertising, merchandising, partnerships are all key to what can be included in the public image team. I'd ask you to kind of consider where you believe you can, bring your skills and talents to bear for the district and for the team. Kind of throw out that question of, would you be willing to lead the team? And if not, maybe lead the team, is there a specific area that you might be most interested in leading or working in? So those are the 2, 6, 8 areas that we went over last week that Rotary has, as I said, that ton of information, and it's the white sheets that I sent out to you after last week's meeting of all of those different areas. But I would like to get you resources and things that you need in between, but if you can mark down March 19th, is that the right date, Paula?
Exactly. So March 19th, it's a Saturday, if you could kind of block that date, we would like to do an in-person workshop, maybe start off with breakfast and lunch, and then maybe afterwards some beverages and things like that. Some place where, we can all come together. I know sometimes the creative juices flow in a walktail setting, virtual cocktail, but I think more innovative and creative juices will flow in as we come together, just, getting together. So please, March 19th, as Karen said. We still have time to go, but I think Karen emphasized, if each one of us can express our interest in a specific area, those 8, or if we want to be a chair. Karen, would we also look at the public image being a chair or a co-chair? How do you envisage this?
It could be a single chair or co-chair for the committee. In the committee, that individual would kind of do the check-ins from all of the different areas just to see how everyone's at. We would probably, the public image team would probably meet periodically. So as they came together, someone would be leading their efforts into making that happen for everybody.
And if I may add, Karen, in the past, I would say public image and the resources were not aligned well. But as Karen said, there's a wealth of resources, ton and ton of assets, tons and tons of assets. So I think that's, at least to me, music to my ears, because those resources are going to help us get, come to be trained and be on the same page, everybody. And with somebody like Karen bringing us all of that together, I think it'll be a super, super team.
Did Bala say ton of asses or ton of assets? just my ears.
And I would say that for both
I like
Carmen and
both
Brett,
of them.
if you can't get across the border, wherever we're going to meet, we're going to make sure that we can set up a large screen and we can have you zoom in and be a part of the group and share from that standpoint. So definitely want to keep you connected and everything. So, wherever we're going to be, we'll make sure that we can connect with you across the border. And, I keep hoping for the day where
Karen,
we can all be together, but.
Karen, I want to ask you a quick question. Since it's going to be just a few hours, even our friends, Brett and, Carmen and others coming in from Canada can drive in and go back, so they don't have to do that 72-hour thing. So that should be okay, right?
Yeah, it depends on.
It'll depend. I'm not planning to go across the border for a
Okay.
while.
But we
So-
will make arrangements to do a hybrid if we need to.
Yeah,
And
so,
I haven't been very vocal. I've been listening and really thinking about what's being said, and I agree with a lot of it. Whatever you put out to the clubs, please do it really simply. The one idea that has really hit home to me, the little light bulb went off, was the word impact.
mhm.
And even if you can communicate that to the clubs, so when they do photography or whatever, the impact, that will make even a big difference, even that little tiny thing. So
Okay,
Mm.
and thank you. And of all of the things that we talked about, if we can get everyone talking about impact, we would be moving so much further forward. So great, thank you. And one last thing that I wanted to leave before I have Bala do the final wrap up, but really to look at each one reach one, which sounds kind of silly, but if you can, this is a huge undertaking for us. And I'm so grateful there's as many people involved at this point. But again, as we get down into rolling up our sleeves and getting the work done, we need a whole bunch more people too. So the more the merrier, if you know someone in a specific area, and again, looking at those different areas of interest. Let me throw those back up there really quickly for you. Websites, social media, events, public relations, speaking engagements, partnerships, advertising, and merchandising. All of those have a different skill set. And as Jenny said, I don't like to write, but I could throw a hell of an event. If that's where you're at, that's more power to you. And if we do look at large district events as part of our strategy, then events are going to play a role in this as well. So, but find people with different talents. If they're interested, make sure they know about March 19th. We will send you a location soon, and we hope to be able to bring you together. And March 19th is to really start working on the plan. What do we want to see and what do we want to have implemented? Bala's year begins July 1. So we have a short run to that deadline to say, here's what the team's going to start, and our work in earnest begins on July 1. Ooh. Someone say something.
Awesome.
Great meeting.
This is really
Thanks,
good stuff
Karen.
tonight, actually.
Thanks, Paula.
Yeah, very well presented. And I see a lot of light bulbs going on. And I think it's going to be great as we start planning this. And I'm looking forward to working with the PI team for the membership team.
I think there's going to be great synergy with there, Roma. I really do.
And together.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
All right.
Thanks,
Paula,
Dan.
do you have some wise wisdom for us?
A couple of things, and I'm going to always
Has a question,
follow.
Bob.
What's that?
Beneath was raising his
No,
hand.
no, no.
Sorry, Ken.
I was going to
Go
say.
ahead, Vineet.
No, please go ahead, Bala. Sorry.
No, as it's always a hard act to follow with Roma speaking and Karen speaking, all of you great and brilliant people. But the membership and public image, that's where the rubber meets the road, pedal to the metal. That's where we have vibrant clubs. So if you look at the vibrant clubs and the members in that, and I ask myself the question, why do I exist? Why does my club exist? Well, I'll tell you my personal journey. In addition to meeting Roma as part of Rotary, as the Dalai Lama, the Holiness Dalai Lama, the ultimate source of happiness is within us. So happiness is what I seek through Rotary, in addition to peace, wellness, and other things. And when you listen to what Gandhi said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in complete harmony. So if we put those together, happiness is my journey and Rotary is my message. And how do we deliver that message is through public image. And how do we take that down to the club is through the membership. So if public image and membership team get together and be the consistent what I call as the brand ambassadors, membership ambassadors, and deliver those messages to our club members, get them excited, motivated, passionate about it. If we can, even if we can take half of the passion that's existing here in this call today to our members, not only will we grow, not only will we retain, but more important is our focus to the non-Rotarians, the communities that we live in, the communities we serve in. Their perception, their understanding of Rotary will completely not only change, but we can continue to imagine Rotary to our members and take it to the next level, where I call it good to great District 6380.
Great. Thank you, Vala. I appreciate it. And again, my thanks to all of you for your dedication, your time, your service to Rotary. You are really, really special. And you're going to really make a big difference for our district and our clubs. And I thank you for your inspiration and your willingness to lead. So email
Karen,
me.
if I
if you-
have one more thing to say, and I think this 6380 public image team will set a benchmark for all districts, not only in our zones 28 and 32, but across the world. So I see as in a year from now, each of you will be getting calls, phone calls, emails, and all the other things that go along with what a best of the best public image team can do, will do, must do.
Thank you. I'm available if you have any questions or just want some resources. I'll be sending periodically between now and March 19th some things in the Learning Center for you maybe to take a look at. But outside of that, the paper that I sent after the last meeting will give you lots of resources. Recruit some able and willing folks to come along on our merry journey with us. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again on the 19th. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Karen, and thank you everyone for the great participation.
Thanks, guys.
Good
Bye now.
night.
Thanks. Thanks all.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Great message, Karen. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Yep. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Mike. Oh, okay, gone. So
Oh.
do you think they're back in line, Roma?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And it was, I mean, it was very thoughtful discussion. You led them right to, the messaging and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was very nicely done.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, good.
And I think there is a lot of interest. I saw Kat and Lisa texting and they were asking questions and
Mhm.
yeah, I think we're going to have a good team.
And Sharna, bless her heart,